Hello and welcome back to Bromponi Adventures. In this final installment of the Café racer build, we'll be looking at what are the tiny problems that we needed to still fix and why the engine doesn't rev over 5,000 revs. So as these things sometimes happen, is you do one thing and then you undo something else. In this case, we had problems with the speedometer and the tachometer. The reason is the original front end used the cable for the speedometer. The new one doesn't. The S-Rad front end doesn't have an option or a place where one can put a cable in. So the speedometer wouldn't work. We also still had problems with the paintwork. I wasn't happy with the way that the engine was done. I know that they'd sprayed a lot of the engine with rattle can. I eventually cleaned up some of the stuff. I cleaned off. And then some of the chrome bits were looking terrible and so on. And so I took out the engine and stripped the bike down to the frame and sent the frame away to be powder coated and properly done. But as you can see, the engine still looked quite horrific. The problem though was that I'd been spending so much time on this bike and so much effort, I really just didn't have the patience to still do the engine and spray the engine and all that. I looked around and found out that one can do some microblasting, either not sandblasting, vapor blasting, glass blasting and all of that. But everybody advised against that due to the fact that the blasting material most often still leaks into the engine. In December, we decided to strip the bike down to almost nothing. Early Jan, we got the frame back. Having done this for the second time now, the rewiring went a lot faster this time. I also, while I ordered the new speedometer, which was the motogadget Pro speedometer setup, I also ordered what they call a motogadget M button. That is a small little button that you could put at the front of the bike. It uses a single threaded wire to the back of the Mo unit, which sits in the back of the bike. With that done, you can do away with a lot more of the wiring. You don't have to have a wire for every one of the 6 buttons on the handlebars, and you only needed one wire. So I ended up going for that option. It wasn't very expensive, and I thought that aesthetically it would do a lot more for the bike. Having the engine pulled out and the engine put back in again, I was hoping that the next thing that we needed to do was to have the carburetor synced. As you can see, we're still using the Mikuni 49mm carbs that we got from Murray's Carbs. These carbs were also not cheap. I read a lot of good reviews about them, especially with the pot filters and so forth. I reached out to Donnie at Randburg Motorcycle. He fixed the beast and he took her off to his workshop. He gave me the first report. At first, he tried to sync the carbs. That didn't work. And then he said to me that he thinks we need to open the top end and have a look. Found a number of problems. One of them, significantly, was the valves weren't the same across. So remember in the second video, I told you that Angelo took 2 engines and put them all together into one engine. If you look closely at the valves, you'll see some of these are concave, some of them are flat. Some of them are 750 valves, so it was a nightmare. Then Donnie said, well, if this is what the condition is of the top end, why don't we open the bottom end and see what that looks like? Yeah, that didn't go much better either. A lot of the bearings were old, there were some grooves on the crankshaft, and Donnie said to me, look, we're going to need to re-engineer this whole engine. However, as we know, re-engineering costs a lot of money. he's going to try and find us a second-hand motor that we could rather use and then rebuild properly. So Donnie did that. He sourced an engine. It took 2-3 months for the engine to arrive. He basically rebuilt the engine into my engine cases while the frame was sitting at my house waiting basically for the engine to be done. Donnie also had to bore out at the sleeves, and we went for 5mm bore. Significantly increases the engine capacity from a 901cc to almost 1047cc's. It took another couple of months, engine reinstall, and Donnie put back the original carbs on the bike. He really had a problem with getting the Makunis to work. He said to me, give me a couple of months, I just need to deal with some stuff, I'll come back to the Makunis. The problem, we actually contacted Murray a couple of times. He was less than helpful. He gave a spec and then, further than that, he wasn't particularly interested. We're now at the stage where the engine is new. I've had the 1,000 kilometer service done. And then I also replaced the seat, which is one of the last things that I did. Previous seat, shall I say, was a little bit hard. I also didn't find aesthetically it went with the color scheme of the bike.
Oh my love, you're such a fragile thing, I know. And with the winter comes the ice, the snow, but I'm it all. And oh my love, don't worry about the cold just yet. The trees haven't started to shed. Just feel the summer sun as it warms our bed.